Good afternoon. My name is Mark Carbone. I'm the Chief Information Officer with the Waterloo Region District School Board, and it's my pleasure to be at Edna Stabler Public School this afternoon with Allison Bullock and Andrew Baronski, and we are going to capture and live stream a conversation about a wonderful project that involved some cross-panel collaboration, and mum's the word. That's all I'll say on it. I'll let Allison and Andrew introduce themselves, and then we'll tell you a little bit more about the project. So, Allison?
I'm Allison Bullock. I teach grade 4 French immersion here at Edna Stabler, and I've been teaching for 14 years. And I would say half of that I've been pretty heavily involved in technology in the classroom as well.
And I'm Andrew Baronski. I teach at Huron Heights Secondary School in Kitchener. I teach in the Futures Forum project, which is a cross-curricular blend of 3 courses. So it's grade 10 students, made up of English, civics, and careers. I've been teaching that for 4 years, and it really looks at a lot of project-based learning, inquiry-based learning, making authentic experiences for our students, and I've been really enjoying teaching that.
Excellent. Well, certainly from your introductions, you are very well suited to this year's adventure. So perhaps you could take a few minutes and just describe the project that you tackled for this school year.
Sure. Maybe the way to start is kind of how we got here. So Alice and I actually sat down at a conference probably about
December.
December. And we were just our school was just announced recently that we're going on Google Apps for Education. We were talking about how great of a collaboration tool it is, and talking about it would be great to kind of connect and use it some way and bring our classes together. And from there, we kind of started fostering this idea of how we could bring our classes together, which led to this idea of having my grade 10 students work as mentors in some way to our grade 4 students.
I think part of the challenge was finding out what in the curriculum grade 10 and grade 4 has in common, so that it could be beneficial to both parties, and it could be, you could hit the curriculum, but deliver it in a sort of engaging, unorthodox way that's much more interesting than standard delivery.
Absolutely, and that was a challenge for me too in some ways. So we're talking about ways we could do that. And one thing that I'd been looking for a few years and hadn't really found a good source for it yet was for my grade 10 students. The civics curriculum asked for them to be active citizens and go and actually do something in the community. And usually I just kind of left it wide open and gave them some choice on how to do that. But it was always to varying degrees in success for how well it went. So I was looking for something to give them some choice still, but a little more direction for a way we could go with it. So actually connecting them online with the grade 4s to have them mentor them through a process worked out really nicely.
It did. It was really a positive experience. And the grade 4s were excited to meet older students that weren't in our building. And I think using the technology tools really opened up the reality that anyone can be your teacher and you can learn from all kinds of different sources. So it was a very positive experience.
Yeah, for mine as well. The engagement for my students was fantastic. This term had a grade 10 applied class for Futures Forum, and a few people were like, are you really going to put them online with grade 4s and have them work with them? Are you sure you want to take that risk? But I threw it out as a challenge to them, and they're not often the students who get asked to take on a leadership role, and they actually really appreciate it and jumped at it.
Now they blew the roof off because they were such good examples to grade 4 as to how older kids can behave appropriately online. There was never any issue, even when we weren't directly supervising. Like, we'd be in the room somewhere at either end, but walking around with the laptop saying, now talk to your partner, and what are you saying? Everything was really positive, so they got to know this sort of, it was a comfort level, even though we'd never actually laid eyes on each other
for sure
in real life.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So let me ask a couple of questions here about the learning process. So if I was a grade 4 student in your classroom, Allison, what was expected of me in terms of working through this project?
There was some elaborate planning before any of this went. I mean, Andrew and I took at least 2 days to map out what we were expecting from our respective classes, and then we kind of had singular paths to take to get our kids to where they had to be. So mine had to do brainstorming of what it was. It was a social studies connection generally, and they had to build a structure from an ancient time or the medieval era. So they had to be prepared to research what it was, why it was built, who used it, and then construct this thing as the expert to all those questions. So Andrew's kids helped by creating booklets that, like personalized, customized slideshow booklets that guided the grade 4 into each respective step of what they had to do. So there was a lot of planning. You had to be a patient student, and a lot of them wanted to jump ahead and build and paint and start, and they had no idea why they were doing it. So we had to back up and say, well, now this is why you need planning. This is why you have to go back to your book. You have to ask your mentors, am I doing this right? What's going on? So there was a lot expected. And for the 6 weeks that my kids worked on it, they stuck to it, and we're talking about engagement. Like, they stuck with it, and we're really pumped to keep going through the whole thing.
Awesome. And from your students' perspective, Andrew?
Yeah, so from the grade 10 side, I put this out to them as their summative project for their civics course. And there were some tie-ins to careers and English as well for bringing all the futures home together. But the focus was definitely on this idea of being an active citizen and going out into your community and helping in some way. So for them, I kind of, when I put our work together, we decided like they'd be in charge of this process and really taking on this idea of a project-based approach. I had some general guidelines for my students, but they really got to take it and run with it from there. So the general guidelines I gave was they had to put something together to guide her grade 4 through this process. So after we'd each place them into their groups, Allison's class let me know what they were going to be doing for their projects. I threw that out to mine, and actually I brought the grade 4 curriculum into my grade 10 class. Alan put a document together, like the things she wanted to cover from the strands, and actually had about almost a 2-class discussion with my students about the grade 4 curriculum, what her students need to cover, and then kind of talking about some strategies for how they could incorporate that into some kind of digital booklet for Allison's students to follow. Really from there though, I kind of sat back and got to watch them go and kind of jump in and help them through the process, but it was really they decide where they wanted to take that. For some, that was building a website for students. Others, that was like a Google presentation of slides for steps to follow or a Google Doc.
Well, this is also exciting to hear about it, because as an observer, I see opportunities for student voice and student choice, and perhaps most importantly, the opportunity for students on both sides of this project to own their own learning.
Sure. And
that really, I think, hits a real sweet spot, if you would. So in terms of some reflections then, how has this maybe informed your own professional practice? Is this something that spurred you to maybe try it again, or is this or a variant perhaps, or did it turn out the way you expected?
I would say, as far as student engagement and commitment to their task and the sort of the learning skills portion of this, like cooperation, collaborating, organization, it hit all of those, and it worked them to the bone, because they had 6 weeks to pull it together, keep everything focused. So those life skill, people skill, things that aren't academic are invaluable. They got so much out of that. For me as the teacher, I have to refine how I teach step by step through an organizational plan.
Right.
Because I personally don't run that way. I'm a jumper, and I do 800 things at once. Maybe not very well, but that's more the creative way I attack stuff. So I would find that I understand where someone's going, but I know it's not the right way to go. So I would have to force myself to go back to, let's look at the plan. Let's plan out this. So I have to work on how to deliver and work, I guess, even classroom instruction. Everyone stop, this group come with me. It can't be free flow all the time, because we both discovered this. If we have a few kids who, left to their own devices, don't really have much of a plan, they won't do anything. So I need to sort of better schedule a variety of small group meetings, whole class meeting, one-on-one with people who aren't getting things done. But it was good to see that, considering it was the first time we've done this, the outcome was fantastic. So in my mind, it's sort of nitpicky points,
right.
but they're things that'll make it better and make me a better teacher, and make myself more accountable to the kids.
Well, and I like the fact that you're highlighting things that you would change are based on what happened, and so it's an element of that reflective practice, which is very, very awesome. Sure. And Andrew, your perspective on that?
For me, there's areas I've been playing around with from a philosophical side from education for a few years, and a lot of this is, again, come from the Futures Forum project, the idea of inquiry-based or project-based learning, and creating authentic experiences for your students in the classroom, and it's something I've struggled to do over the past few years. And this one kind of saw it really nicely come together for me in this project and really reinforce the value of that for me. And for my students as well. You mentioned engagement a few times, and it was fantastic for my students going through this process. Having an authentic learning experience, and it wasn't just something just for the classroom that stopped at once they left the classroom, and it had value outside of it, really meant a lot to my students. And I think it really improved the quality of work, the effort, the buy-in to what we were doing in the classroom. I remember the first day we actually started putting the booklets together. One of the things the board supports was for teachers to travel to other classrooms in Futures Forum to see what they were doing. And I had Dan Ballantyne, who's one of the, I would say, like a top civics teachers on our board, come visit my classroom that day, and he just kind of watched them as they're going and starting this project. And he kind of leans over to me and whispers, like, "Are they always disengaged?" And I'm like, "No, actually, I wish I could say that they were, but traditionally, no, this is a really good day." But it was kind of cool to see someone else come in my classroom talk about how engaged my students were, and it was really because of nothing I did really, but really what this project and what they were going through with that.
The root of what it was about.
It really enforced to me the importance of trying to build authentic experiences into your classroom, because it had an amazing effect on my students.
Well, that's great. Now, there's no doubt that many sets of eyes were watching this project. I'm assuming other students at the school and your respective administrations, maybe parents were. Did you get any feedback or comment from those sets of eyes?
Fairly surface comments, but appreciated nonetheless and positive. Just, wow, this is amazing. My kid really likes coming to school. I think the most poignant comments and feedback came from grade 10 because they came and saw it in person. And I think that was a real highlight for both sets of kids.
Absolutely.
Was that one of Andrew's students said to me, had I done this in grade 4, I would have turned out a much smarter person.
Wow.
Yeah, which was pretty mind-blowing. I'm thinking, first of all, you're smart and you're great, and now, but to have that insight, thinking if I could do all this hands-on creative stuff, it would have changed my life. And to think, okay, and I don't know if there are 9 and 10-year-olds thinking that, or they'll look back one day and say, had I not done this, I wouldn't have developed this skill.
Sure.
So, and also, I think it was Michaela, one of yours, who just said it. It felt really good to help them and see them get through this and be here and see their success. And that, to me, regardless of what the parents and the principals think, that's the magic right there. That's why we do this. And it was totally worth it just for that feedback alone.
Perfect answer. It's one that if it wasn't spoken, you'd laminate it and pin it up on your wall. For sure.
It was cool. Actually had our school's an MSIP school, which has a kind of a period where students have some freedom to work on what they want to work on, have some interactions with other students in the class and teachers in the class. And my guys will obviously leave our class and go to their MSIP period, and we were talking about it. So I had other colleagues come up to me in the hallways and stuff like that and mention how, I was talking to the student about this project they're doing, and they're so excited about it. It was really cool to see a student coming into class, wanting to get back to work on something they're working on, and show the acceptance level they had for it. So it was great to get that feedback. And for the English portion of the course, part of their summit is to do like an exit interview with me. And we talk about the highlights from the term, the things they liked and the things they didn't like. And I was impressed with how many mentioned this project is kind of being the highlight of the term for them, and something that they're going to take away afterwards, and so they really enjoy that, as you kind of mentioned, the experience of going through this, and they took a lot of pleasure in helping somebody else. And for a lot of them, that's not something where their mindset is like, how can I go and help others? But through going through this project, I truly feel, and I got the feedback from some of my students saying that that's something they want to pursue more in the future. And again, everything aside, I can say, hey, I'm enabling students to want to go out and help others in their community is an awesome experience.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And maybe as just a final question, as we're closing out here in the last week of the 13-14 school year, and albeit a nice summer breather to recharge in the middle, what lies ahead? Is this something that you would tackle again, perhaps in a similar format or a variant? Or
no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd do 2 in a year next year if I could.
Really?
Wow. For sure. And not just social studies structures, not necessarily this particular project, but collaborating, making it authentic, making that help element and doing good for others. I would do 2 or 3. But the question is, I need the idea. I have to channel it from the universe, and it will come at 3 in the morning someday. Go, oh my God, that's brilliant. So yeah, definitely do this. And every teacher should try this at least once. Whether you fail or not, go through the experience of trying to get them cranked up to learn and connect them with other kids who can be the helper. I'd be curious to be the mentor class to get your point of view of how it works
Yep.
when the kids are the coaches. But to
Right.
see them, they just lit up when they're talking to these big kids. The first time we did the Google Hangout, I'm killing myself because you can see on the screen, my guys come up to here and they're sitting at the camera going, hi, hi. And the grade 10s are very patient, like, hi. And once they got through that shiny, happy, oh my gosh, what do we do? We're on TV.
Yep.
And they got into the connection with the kids. They were just so pumped up to keep them connected. But one of my kids was actually hugging somebody when she came in. She was there 10 minutes, just leaping at her. I thought, oh, okay. Normally that's inappropriate, but that's okay. She was just really excited.
Yeah.
So real relationships come out of this then. And
Authentic connections.
that's so
yeah.
fantastic. It really adds to that real element, doesn't it?
Exactly.
For sure, and it was interesting to see how quickly they took off. Like you said too, we met up a couple times online. The first time was kind of, I'd say, more the awkward phase for sure. And then the second time we did hang out though, Allison had her students and iPads, just like they were actually walking around their classroom and showing my guys what their structures looked like.
Please.
And they were much quicker, like they right into it, just like quite happy doing it. And my guys were a lot quicker to go and give feedback as well. And then, like you said, when we came, the third time we really met up in a live one-on-one situation was when we actually physically came here to see
Yeah.
the structures, and it was like they connected to each other right away
Yeah.
with these 2 quick hangouts online. So that was really, really interesting.
They
to
sort
see.
of gravitated right to their groups.
Yeah.
These kids came in and just, okay, which one's mine? Which one's mine? Which was really neat, that sense of ownership of where
For
are the
sure.
kids that I helped. And they sort of lingered and hung out there for a little bit. We had to sort of say, go see the other ones, go
Yeah.
check it out. They did, but they ultimately kind of wandered back to their own group. And I think they had that sense of connection and some pride in the final project that they had taken part in.
Sure. To come back to your question though, I would absolutely do this again. And again, this project just as it was, or something different too. Just the idea of we've got the technology now to very easily connect with people outside our classroom walls. And while it can seem daunting at first, and it definitely was for us when we decided to take this on, we just kind of said, like, let's jump in and do it. And for us, it was again a very large project, like over 6 weeks, as you mentioned. But it wouldn't need to be that way either. I can see much smaller ways of doing it. And
sure.
one thing we talked about doing, we didn't actually materialize as much as we thought it would this time, would be more like mentoring from a writing standpoint. So you're guys sharing the writing with us, and us going to go through that editing process. But it could be a quick one-off. It could be like just a few classes to do it, or like a larger project as well. I think I see lots of different ways to do it. Larger or smaller, about the same size we did it. But it was an incredibly valuable experience. I just got to mention engagement again. My guys just bought in so much. It was the most engaged I've had a grade 10 applied class, I think, ever in my 7 years of teaching now.
That's great.
So again, that's like half the battle right there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, on behalf of the board, thank you so much for taking time to have this discussion this evening, and also thank you for sharing your excellence and with those, I think, special areas where you can focus on collaboration, inquiry, and use technology in that enabling way. It's really neat to see how you fit all the pieces together. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure.